Good evening, everybody. Good evening, colleagues. Welcome to Perfect Experts tutorials. And today we are going to be focusing on essay writing and dissertation writing skills. So I'm going to pick a subheading here or a subtopic where we are going to talk much about planning and writing essays and dissertations. So the bottom line is you must understand that university essays differ from school essays in the sense that they are less concerned with the way that you know, with what you know, and they are more concerned with how you construct an argument when answering the question. What this means is that the starting point for writing a strong essay is to first unpick the question and then use this to plan your essay before you start putting pen on paper. So I'm going to start by looking at the tips for writing essays. I understand that everyone has an idea of what an essay should look like. But there can be many pitfalls on the way to writing an essay. So I'm going to give you some of the most important tips that you can adopt or apply when you are writing your essay at tertiary level. The first point that we are going to deal with is perfectionism. Many students get sucked into striving for perfection. But don't let perfect be the enemy of good. You can write a good essay and you don't need anywhere near as much evidence as you think. So try not to fret. Number 2 is make a plan. An essay plan of any kind is your best friend. It can be really painful trying to figure it out, but you will feel very much more in control and thus very much less stressed once you have something to work from. So planning is very important here. You can actually know your conclusion before you finish your essay. So you can steer your argument in that direction and avoid diverting from the main point. And you must always keep to the plan. Let's focusing on what you have planned before you started your writing your essay. It's very tempting halfway through an essay, if you have a bright idea, to try to add it in. Make a separate note of it, but keep looking at the plan as you write and you try not to deviate. In an exam, deviating creates a messy result. And I hope you understand this, because we have limited time, and if you end up deviating, then that will be a waste of time. So try to stick to the plan. Another key point, you need 3 good points for an essay. For instance, in exam, may mean 3 paragraphs. For a tutorial, you may wish to develop your argument in a supplementary paragraph or 2. In each one, begin by offering that paragraph's proposition. Back it up with some evidence and explain how that paragraph helps in answering your question. Treat each paragraph like a mini essay, briefly summing up its argument and its contribution to the answer at the end. Then help your reader by linking your paragraphs, signposting in the last sentence of your paragraph where the next one is going to begin. So there should be a flow of points. Your conclusion don't need to be long. If your argument is clear and you are running out of time, you can dispense with it altogether in an exam. Your conclusion should be short and snappy, must be precise. Okay, we're going to focus on another aspect here. Just a moment. So we are done with our first part. Let's go to your introduction. Every essay needs an introduction in order to establish and focus the parameters of the discussion that will follow. So you may find it helpful to divide the introduction into areas to demonstrate your breadth and engagement with the essay question. You might define specific terms in the introduction to show your engagement with the essay. But I think you must be careful here. I think it differs with schools, faculties, it differs with lecturers, it differs with schools as well. Others prefer you not to define concepts in your introduction, because you may end up referencing, and others will say no, you must not provide references in your introduction. So I think the best way for you to do it is you just give us highlighters. That's what exactly you are going to talk about in your body. But if they allow you to provide definitions, you may need to define only specific terms. Now let's go to structuring. The main body of the essay should elaborate on the issues raised in the introduction and develop an argument or arguments that answer the question. It should consist of a number of self-contained paragraphs, each of which makes a specific point and provides some form of evidence to support the argument being made. Remember that a clear argument requires that each paragraph explicitly relates back to the essay question or developing argument. So we go back again to the issue of deviation, where I was saying you must always be very careful that you don't end up deviating from the main point or from the focal idea of your essay. And when you are referencing here, it's very important that you don't end your paragraph with a reference. We must, or you must always make sure that you reference within the paragraph. At the end of each paragraph, the last sentence should be your own conclusion, what you are saying about each, whatever quotation you would have made within the paragraph. So be careful, especially when it comes to dissertations. Because when you put forward an idea and say, so and so said this, and then we need the interpretation of that. What does it mean? So that's very important. Let's focus again on another issue here. Let's talk about structuring your dissertation, which is what I want to narrow down into this, because that's the main part of our job. So although many students and tutors will say that the introduction is often written last, it is a good idea to begin to think about what will go into it early on. For example, the first draft of your introduction should set out your argument, the information you have, and your methods, and it should give a structure to the chapters and sections you will write. Your introduction will probably change as time goes on, but it will stand as a guide to your entire extended dissertation, and it will help you to keep focused. The structure of dissertations vary depending on the question and the discipline, but they may include some of the following: the background information, 2, and context for your research. This often takes the form of a literature review, but you don't need to be too long. In the case of dissertations, maybe half a page is good enough. You would have told us what is inside the paper. We have an idea of what you are going to talk about. It may also include explanation of the focus of your work, explanation of the value of this work to scholarship on the topic, list of the aims and objectives of the work, and also the issues which will not be covered because they're outside the scope. For example, if you have 5 chapters, say maybe this dissertation is structured into 5 chapters. The first chapter being the introduction and background to your research. The second, literature review. Third, methodology. Fourth, your presentation and the discussion of the results. Fifth, that's your conclusion and recommendations. And you try to summarize that. That should not take more than 3 lines. Thus, you may only need half a page for the whole introduction. You have exhausted everything. You can also say maybe your paper, your research is guided by the following objectives. You try to summarize them again in 2 to 3 lines or so. So the main body of your essay will probably include methodology, the results of research, your arguments based on your findings. I'm not going to go into that. Let me move on again to essay writing in science subject. We understand that essay writing differ from faculty to faculty, from subject to subject. They are not the same. They're very different. So if you are writing your essay for a science subject, you may need to consider additional areas such as how to present your data, your diagrams, and that's very, very important for you. So scientists also need to be good in writing essays. So it's very important at all stages of your career as a scientist to be able to write clearly and concisely, to present their data, your conclusion effectively. So I'm going to go through some of the tips that scientists may need to apply or to adhere to if they are to be successful in writing essays. So why is it important? Good technical writing skills are important, not only in the field of science, not only in the field of research, but in all professions. After you invest, you may find yourself needing to persuade investors to buy shares in your business, writing legal statements for court cases, or pitching new ideas to your boss. Whatever career you choose, you'll find that the ability to write, the ability to write well is one of the most important skills that we have developed. Now, you will need to set yourself for the essay. Then I'm talking about the planning phase. Now, in the field of science, when it comes to the issue of essay writing, what are some of the key questions that you need to ask yourself? Number one, which keywords do I need to define in my introduction? Number two, what is my paragraph structure? Number three, what level of detail am I going to need in each section? Number three, which diagram am I going to draw and how will I link them with my argument? And it is, now let me say this, it is important, always remember that you need to link whatever diagram you provide. And this applies to research as well. You need to label them. You need to know what the diagram is. What is it all about? And you need to tell us about it. Explain at least in a paragraph or so. What are you depicting? What are you trying to say? What is the message behind that? And that is very, very important. What experimental evidence am I going to include? What am I going to say in my conclusion? So it is also a good idea to be aware of the marking criteria that are used to grade, right? Your essays. Now, as a scientist, it's important to know not only the facts about a particular scientific phenomenon, but also how those facts were discovered. As you progress through, you learn about many experimental methods, their limitations, and how the data generated is processed and analyzed. And you need to be able to apply that. Now, let's keep that. Let's talk about the formalities. So you must always adhere to these other technical requirements. For example, your font should be easy to read. We all know that. You can use the Times New Roman, Arial, Calibri, all these. Always make sure you use 12. Should not be too small. Now, your essay must be written in formal academic style. But we are living in another era, but you must be clear and concise. You should always aim to be respectful of others, people's opinions. If you are quoting, if you are referencing, you respect that, regardless whether you agree with them or not. Always use inclusive language. Be attentive to how language reinforces discriminatory power structures. For instance, use the word humankind instead of mankind when referring to all human beings. You're welcome to use the first person voice in your essay. Yes, you can do that. So clear use of language is essential in academic writing. Well-structured paragraphs and clear topic sentences enable a reader to follow your line. Your line of thinking without difficulty. Your language should be concise, all right, formal, and express precisely what you want it to mean. Avoid vague expressions that are not specific and precise enough for the reader to derive exact meaning. For example, they we, people, the organization, and so forth. Abbreviations like IE, which means that is, or in other words, e.g., for example, we always make sure that we use formal language. So the other one, the strategic and accurate use of transitional devices, which include therefore, thus, consequently, in addition, conversely, in contrast, contributes as well to the coherence and persuasive force of your essay. So it's very important you adhere to that. Now, I think I'm going to do part 2 of this, of these tips, so that I help you as we move on. For now, good night and goodbye.